Thank you for listening to the BJJ Brick Podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, my friends, to the BJJ Brick Podcast. Today we have episode 219, The Depth of Your Jiu-Jitsu Pool. And no, we're not going to go swimming, even though we wish we were on vacation, like our third partner in crime, Joe, who is actually on a vacation right now, on a cruise and probably swimming as we're speaking. But we are not going to be swimming. We're going to be talking about jiu-jitsu, as always. And I have my partner in crime, Byron, here with me today. How are you, Byron?
Gary, I'm doing great. If you're new to the show, Gary and I are often referred to as the Bill and Ted of the Jiu-Jitsu podcasting community. Totally bogus. Totally gnarly, Gary. One of the two. I don't know.
I haven't heard Bill and Ted, but I've heard Arthur Fonzarelli and Richie Cunningham. Okay. I've heard that one.
You don't know Bill and Ted?
I know Bill and Ted.
Amazing Adventure or whatever? Okay.
Yeah, Excellent Adventure.
Excellent Adventure.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're talking about...
Well, I guess Keanu Reeves does a little bit of jiu-jitsu.
There you go. He did.
I saw John Wick 1 and 2. Yeah. Yep.
I have not seen either one of those.
Oh, you're missing. You got to see one.
Okay.
Definitely one.
This isn't just the movie recommendation podcast, although that does happen
People
from time
also
to time.
call us Siskel and Ebert.
Okay. Well, this one of us is no longer with us. I don't know which
and
one.
It's probably me because I'm the older one.
But we're talking today about the depth of your jiu-jitsu pool. And that might sound kind of weird, but really we'll break it down for you. And it's an interesting way to think about how your jiu-jitsu is progressing, maybe kind of analyze your techniques, your areas of strength and weakness. And really, we'll put anybody on this depth, this pool depth here, whether from somebody who hasn't even started jiu-jitsu to somebody who is an elite athlete. And really, it's not judging your game as a whole, it's judging parts of your games, like what part of your game is this deep and this at this depth. So
we want to take our opponents out to deep water and put them where they're uncomfortable and where we're good at. So that's what we're going to be talking about.
There we go. This is good times, Gary.
Definitely good times. We have kind of a new section of the show, our life lesson. And Byron, you normally have the life lesson, but I was actually thinking about this here the other day. I happened to step on my dog's foot, and my dog screamed or barked or growled or whatever you call it.
Basically tapped out.
Tapped out in dog language, and went over to the corner real quick with his head down. And a minute later, that dog's back sitting right next to me, got a big old smile on his face, just loving life as I'm petting my dog. And it made me realize that I think sometimes as human beings, we kind of get mad or hold a grudge. You know, if Byron punches me in the face on purpose, even though I didn't do that to my dog on purpose, but, you know, I think there's a good chance I would hold a grudge and maybe not talk to Byron, you know, at least till my eye, the swelling around my eye dies down. But, you know, I was just sitting there thinking, you know, like my dog was all upset, and like 2 seconds later, my dog's like sitting right next to me, got his head on my lap, and I'm petting him, and I look over and my dog's smiling. And I'm like, you know, if we could all be like that in life, you know, at work, on the jiu-jitsu mat, we are just going to be that much better. You know, you think about you're rolling with somebody, and we hear this a lot. Somebody is kind of a little aggressive or rough and, you know, puts those submissions on a little too hard or whatever. And, you know, next thing I know, I don't talk to the person again. I don't roll with that person again. I just swear that person off without even talking to them. You know, I'm losing a friendship. I'm losing a chance to learn more from that person. You know, I should take the time instead of holding a grudge to say, hey, Byron, you know, could you please take it easy? I got to go to work tomorrow. Please don't, you know, heel hook me or neck crank me. You know, I want to live to train the next day, if you know, or whatever it is. But, you know, I was just thinking about that, just looking at my dog and saying, you know, I just need to be happier and not hold stuff against people and, you know, just have fun and just let the little things slide and not worry about it.
Yeah, that's a big thing. And, you know, with your dog, I'm not sure how much you know about dogs, Gary, but when dogs smile, sometimes they're actually showing their teeth and growling, and it's you've made you're in terror. But it sounds like you and your dog are doing great. And dogs are, as a good quality is being able to forgive somebody quickly and move on. Because really, if you're holding a grudge against somebody, you're holding that grudge. A lot of times they just go on in their happy little way.
Oh yeah, and who's the happier person? The person not holding the grudge.
Yeah.
Sometimes your friend doesn't talk to you anymore, and you have no clue why, and they won't talk to you, return your texts or messages or voicemails, and you find out years later that person's holding a grudge, and you just went on with life. Who's in a better spot?
We had, sometimes we talk about training and what's going on in the mats, and this happened probably 6 months ago, maybe even 9. But we had a guy in to our no-gi class where at the gym I train at that Gary doesn't go to a whole lot. But so this guy, he's probably 230 pounds, very athletic young man, probably 22, and he wrestled all his whole life up through college and successful wrestler, like just a beast of a guy. And we start rolling. And he's having a trouble passing my guard. Granted, I'd rather have not been playing guard, but when we're somebody like that, there's really not the option. He's going to put me on my butt, and I'm going to have to work from there. But as he's trying to pass my guard, he knees me in the head. Hard. And in jiu-jitsu, if something that happens, it's an accident, like you step on your dog's foot, it's an accident. You say sorry, and you keep training, and you try not to do it again. If you knee somebody in the head again, which happened, he kneed me in the head again, you say, okay, I'm too clumsy, and then you slow it down a notch, and I'm not going to knee somebody in the head 3 times in the same roll. Like, that's ridiculous. So he kneed me in the head once, and I didn't say anything, and neither did he. He kneed me in the head twice, and I said, hey man, you've kneed me in the head twice. I'm not in here to do MMA, because these young guys come in sometimes and you don't know what their goals are. I said, I'm not in here to do MMA. I'm trying to grapple, have a good time, and I like to train hard, but I don't like getting kneed in the head by, I was thinking by somebody who's 230 pounds and coming at me like a wounded cougar. And then he did a third time, and I stopped the roll. I said, hey man, I'm good. And I go, hey, I'm not in this to get kneed in the head. I don't think you're doing it on purpose, but you got to be careful with your training partners. We're not competing with each other. We're in here trying to have a good time. We're trying to help each other get better. You're going 110%, and the damage is landed on me. And honestly, a couple of years ago, I would not have had that conversation. I would have tried to throttle the guy, maybe ended up leg locking this kid. I don't know what I would have. I would have fought back as hard as I could, and he would have not had a clue if I was mad or why I was mad. And that's not the right solution. So I talked to the guy. And then next roll comes out, and nobody wants to roll with the guy, and everybody else pairs up. And then next roll comes out, and it happens again. He's like the ugly kid at the dance. Like, nobody wants to dance with this kid. And so I talked to him. I was like, hey man, people don't want to train with you not because you're super good at grappling. It's because you're banging them up. If you want training partners, you need to treat them with respect. And he apologized to me, and he was a very polite guy. Like, personality wise, the guy was super nice. On the mats, he was a jerk. He didn't get it. And so a conversation like that, and I haven't seen the guy for a while, but it gave him a chance to evaluate what he was doing, and is this a place where I want to keep training? And it really gave him an understanding of why people aren't training with him. It's not because you're super tough and awesome. It's because you're not enjoyable to roll with, and you're trying to murder everybody. And I could try to murder people and not hit them in the head and bang them up, and they don't seem to mind. It's just, I don't know. I don't know if I'm explaining myself very well, but the conversation is the big deal, not just kicking someone's butt, even if you can or can't. Talking to them, hey man, that was pretty rough. You might gauge it back a little bit. I think that's a thing that I've learned throughout the course of the show, and it's been a valuable tool to help control the mat space, control the room that we're in, and make sure it's a good environment.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I used to be the same way too. I would just throttle a guy and never say anything about it. And, I do have stories of doing that. And
legendary stories.
Yeah. It was somewhere on this show that, we were talking about it or whatever, or actually I think somebody was chastising me kind of like for, saying, hey, that's probably not the best idea to do it. And it made me think, and really, our goal here is to grow jiu-jitsu. And really, am I growing jiu-jitsu that way? A lot of times people just don't know. We have to have these conversations. I mean, we really don't want to have the conversation, but, it's good to have. It's good for your gym, and for that person. Like you said, he's probably wondering why nobody wants to roll with him. And, I mean, that wouldn't be fun. But, as big as that guy is, he can probably still beat people really bad and still dominate people without, hitting people with knees, just slowing it down a little bit and just focusing on technique. And it sounds like learning how to pass the guard, which is something that, he's probably never done in wrestling before.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's funny you said that because I've grown just doing this show, just listening to people and, keeping my ears open and taking advice.
Yeah. And the guy was, he was a fun person to be around, except on the mats. And it was no-gi, and he figured out that I was a black belt because it's no-gi. He doesn't know. And he apologized again. Sorry, I didn't realize you were a black belt. I didn't mean to do that. I'm like, that doesn't matter. You shouldn't.
Yeah.
You could probably. I'm more comfortable throwing hard with me than smashing a white belt or a blue belt or whatever. Like, the hard rolls are more acceptable with me. But if you knee me in the head, just quick apology and try not to do it again. That's all. Like, he doesn't know how to pass the guard. His knees are going to be everywhere. That's how he's going to have to learn some passing techniques. The depth of his passing technique is very shallow. It may not even be dipping the toe in the pool yet. You know what I'm saying, Gary?
Yeah, definitely. I know what you're saying. I mean, you basically, kept him, out of their deep end. You didn't let him get into his good position.
But so to bring this back to Gary's life lesson,
it was your fault for not letting it pass. So yep, I agree with that guy. It was your fault, Byron.
I let a lot of people pass my guard when we were training, but if you're coming at me like that, I'm trying to keep my guard the best I can. Oh man!
So what would be this trick to allow? What would be the trick to allow you to allow somebody to pass your guard? Like, what would I have to do that you would just let me pass your guard? Since you just said you let people pass guard.
Just have a playful tone, especially if I don't know you.
That's what I'm going to do next time.
What?
That's what I'm going to do next time.
There you go.
I'm just going to have a playful tone, and as soon as I pass, I'm bringing the pain, brother.
Gary, your tone is always playful until you've isolated an arm, and then I'm like, oh man, there that arm goes. But yeah, to bring it back to your thing about how quickly you could forgive is an important thing. The conversation I had with that guy really helped me forgive him. I mean, he kneed me in the head a couple times. I'm not going to hold a grudge about that. But really talking about it, I had no problem with the guy after that. And I know that if I saw him the next time, I'd be like, that guy's a jerk. He's got me in the head. But since we talked about it, I forgave him as soon as the conversation was like in it a couple of sentences, and he was saying sorry, and he didn't realize it, and what forgiveness, man. I don't got a problem with you. Just try to not do that a bunch. If you do, because we will knee and elbow each other in the head sometimes, or get a little rough. Just say sorry and try to tone it back 10%, and know that we're not competing, and that's it. So I don't know. I just think that communication is good. And the weird thing is, Gary doesn't really communicate super well with his dog. You can't just talk to the dog, and the dog just smiles back.
Well, the bad thing is my dog's a little bit elderly and doesn't hear that well. So even if I do talk to my dog, he probably didn't hear me.
Man.
Yeah.
That's why the hot dogs have a heart of gold, Gary.
Yep. Well, definitely, this was a great life lesson. It was brought to you by Teddy the dog.
All right. I like that. Gary, real quick here, I want to tell everybody about an audio book. It's called 6 Games for BJJ. Really aimed at helping the blue belt and up really introduce some fun ideas to training, some ideas that can take their game, alter it slightly, put some limits on their game, and take it to a different place. That sometimes it's hard to define, like, where to go. Where do I go next? I don't know what to do. And then when you put some limits, or you have a different objective while grappling, you'll discover new things about your own game, and you'll find, oh, this technique works great. I never even thought about that. And that's really when jiu-jitsu becomes an art form. And I think that these games have helped me a lot in jiu-jitsu, and I'm happy to share them with the audience. It's an audiobook, much like a podcast. It's just me talking into the mic, and it's more scripted than the typical podcast, because I had really worked on it quite a while and really fine-tuned the games that were on here. Gary tried to submit a lot of different games, but A lot of those didn't really work out. They were pretty silly. But this is about a little over an hour long. It's $5.99, and the proceeds go to help the show keep going strong. And we appreciate all the sales of the audiobook. If you want to pay a little extra, there's a little up arrow button you could click and kick in a couple extra bucks if you feel like doing that as well. We always appreciate that. But check out the audiobook, 6 BJJ Training Games, and it'll help you get past any plateau and discover new areas of your own game.
Yep, we have a link to it on the show notes, so definitely check it out. It has got some awesome reviews.
Gary, the quote of the week was recommended by a gentleman named Gary, and here it is. Age is no barrier. It's a limitation you put on your mind. Jackie Joyner-Kersee.
Byron, who is Jackie Joyner-Kersee? I just want to put you on the spot.
And I think an Olympic runner?
Track athlete. Out of East St. Louis, Illinois. So good job.
Man, I kind of got that right. Yep. Thanks for giving me credit, Gary.
Oh, you're welcome.
From the
Byron.
80s or 90s?
I don't know. I'd say the 80s, 90s. 90s probably. I don't know.
Well, since this is a quote about age, we do have a resident expert on age. His name is Gary, and I'll let him tell us a little bit about how age is no barrier. It's a limitation you put on your mind.
You know, I really do think that it's a limitation you put on your mind. You know, when I was 20, I used to think, oh boy, 50-year-old people are old. And now that I'm 50, I think, 50-year-old people are old. But in all reality, I don't feel that old. I thought, from watching my dad and watching, every one of my buddy's parents that I grew up with, that you turn 40, all you do is sit in front of the TV, drink beer, and watch sports, and slowly go downhill, physically. I guess one thing I've always done is, tried to, stay in some sort of shape, semblance of a shape, the shape of a pear. But trying to, always work out and have fun and play sports. And, even though, the age of 50, that number, a big 50, a lot of people will think it's old. I really don't feel that way. I'm training a sport that, it's great. Now older people are getting into the sport, or people have been training a long time, have now started to reach 50 and 60 in training. But, you're training with a bunch of young guys, and, they look at you like you're Superman, that you can still train. But, I think anybody who keeps any semblance of shape and, has a happy disposition in life, you're going to realize that, 50 isn't old. 60 isn't old. We can do stuff. I think sometimes people use that age and say, hey, you can't be doing this. This is a young person's game. And I've heard that a lot of times. And really, I'm a young person at heart. I think I look younger than I am. I just, but it's all, and I have done that before. I've put stuff in my mind that say, hey, I can't do this because of my age. And once you do that, you're done. I've had my dad tell me, because of some of these injuries I've had, that, hey, you shouldn't be doing this anymore. Why shouldn't I be doing this? And he's like, well, look at your age. And that has nothing to do with it. Once you, say that just because I'm this age, I can't do it, I'm not going to do it. I can basically do anything I want. And it's just once I, it's a limitation if we use age as, a crutch to hold us back.
Age does play a factor, and I felt that a little bit as I started. I think I was 22 years old, and now I'm 37, and I feel a little different, although I know that I'm getting progressively better every year at Jiu-Jitsu, and I would probably, every year I've trained, I would beat the guy from the year before fairly easily. Maybe not easily, but I think I would come out on top more often than not. But I do think age is not just a fake thing, that you need to have a realistic expectation sometimes of what you're doing. I think if you're using age as an excuse to not train, or to say, you know what, I've just turned 55 or 60, I've enjoyed Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm done. Like, okay, you need to evaluate that. I think you need to evaluate what you're capable of doing and what else Jiu-Jitsu is bringing to you. If you're new to Jiu-Jitsu and you're thinking about training, and you go to one school and they're all guys in their low 20s training for MMA stuff, and you go to another school and it's a bunch of guys in their 40s and 50s, and they're having fun, and they seem like a good group of just people who are enjoying training and enjoying getting better. which schools should you join? That's ultimately up to you, but one of them might be a better fit for the current situation you're in. Not that you can't do jiu-jitsu, but you just want to do it as safely as possible. And I do think injuries, they stack up a little quicker and a little more easily as I've gotten older. Looking at Jackie Joyner-Kersee, Gary was talking a little bit, and I pulled up her career. Olympic athlete. She played in Olympics in 1984, 88, 1992, 96, and she retired. And she played professional basketball for a little while. And then she came back and played in the Goodwill Games from retirement in 1999. And then she tried out for the Olympic Games in 2000. She didn't make it to the team.
Jeez.
But that's a long career. It's impressive. And would her young self have made it? Maybe. But did she definitely defy what people typically think of as what she could do at her age? I would say, yeah. That's for an Olympic runner and long jumper, that's an amazing career. And if you give yourself the excuse of age, it's going to weigh in everything that you have while you're training. Oh, I'm too old. Or, I'm running slower, but it's because I'm older. That's just going to plague you, and you won't perform as well. Just that little mental hiccup you're giving yourself. So don't let it be an excuse. It could be a reality, but don't use that as a crutch. Yeah. I don't know how to say that better than that, Gary.
But you know what I like about jiu-jitsu is you said about running. As you get older, you're not going to run as fast, and that's normal. As I get older in basketball, I'm not going to jump as high or run as fast. I may have a better jump shot, but I'm not going to, move as fast. The one thing I like about jiu-jitsu is I'm definitely not as fast in scrambles, and my cardio may not be as great. But, I think I've got my technique is definitely a lot better than it was at 40. And even though I'm slower, I think with my technique being better, that I can still compete at a decent level. I don't know how to say it, but I just feel like my game is better today than it was, at 48, than it was at 45, than it was at 49.
Yeah.
I still think I'm getting better, even though, like you said, I am slower. I do carry a little more body fat.
I was going to say that, Gary.
Yeah. And I do get injured more. I've had to switch, and, there were years where, I was training 7 days a week, and, it became really all I wanted to do was train jiu-jitsu, and that got to be too much for my body. I train maybe 3 days a week now, and all the other days I'll go to the YMCA and do a little bit of cross-training, do a little weight training, stretching, cardiovascular work, play some basketball, stuff like that, which, keeps me active, but I don't take the jarring on my joints. And or I guess basketball kind of does that to you a little bit, but nobody's twisting my joints the other way or trying to, fold my carotid artery over. So it does allow me to, rest a little bit. But I think as you get older, I can still do everything. But like you said, you have to have a realistic expectation that I'm probably not going to, win the worlds. I'm probably not going to, be a UFC champion. I'm probably not going to, be just incredible. I just have to, tone down a little bit. I have to be realistic, and I have to train differently. You have to find out what works best for you. Some people, may be able to train twice a day. I can't. Some people may be able to train, 6 days a week. It just doesn't work for me. So you have to find what works for you, and just keep going at it. And I kind of look at it that, I'm happy to be training my age. I look at it that I can be a role model to a lot of these younger people that want to train as they get older, and they can use me as advice to hey, what can I do to make sure that I can keep training.
The good thing about jiu-jitsu, you talked a little bit about competing at the same level, or even you feel like you're progressively getting better. And I do think that, yeah, Gary, you're continuing to get more skilled. And much like I said about myself, the Gary of today would have probably just destroyed the Gary 2 years ago, even though that guy, looked a little bit better, and that sort of thing. But
I wonder though, is there a time where we won't get better, and the guy 2 years ago will destroy us.
So what happens is that the guy 2 years ago, one of these days, is going to survive Gary's initial onslaught, and then the Gary today will get a little tired. Or maybe that guy 2 years ago is a little bit too quick for you. You fall asleep, get bored, you get distracted, or you forget what you're doing. But reality is, it's still good because Jiu-Jitsu has already made a thing for this. It's called age categories, and you're competing with people who are in similar life situations likely that you are in. So when you go compete at a master's level, a lot of these people have jobs. A lot of them have families. A lot of them have other things going on. They're not training full-time. They're not an 18-year-old kid just got out of high school and is training full-time and, going to put college off for a few years and see if they can become a world champion. You're not competing with those people. You're competing with people just like you, and they're training at a similar rate that you are a lot of times. Everybody has different situations. And they have the similar things, like their bodies get beat up too, and they don't heal quite as fast. So I really appreciate the age categories. And, thinking about my wife likes to run 5Ks. Not, blazing fast, but she likes to run them as hard as she can, and she's getting quicker and quicker. And when she was younger, under 30, she could look at the age group of the 30 plus, and she's like, well, that's fine. That's not quite the same. And then when she got over 30 and she started winning medals sometimes, she was like, this is great. And it was really motivating for her to compete with athletes that were the same age, and they all had jobs. They all would run basically in the morning before work or at evening when they got home, and they had full-time lives, and they like to run as a hobby. And I think that's one of the great things about jiu-jitsu is you can compete at your age level, and it's not just about age, it's also about off-the-mat life that's affecting you and your ability to train consistently all the time.
Well said, Byron.
Well, that wraps up that quote. A little about age. Don't let it be an excuse, guys. If you're a little older grappler and you're a little nervous about getting on the mat, send us a message through our Facebook thing. Gary will coach you right through that sort of thing.
I'll try.
No, we'll all help you out, and Joe's on there too. And it's not as big and bad as you might think if you haven't tried it. It's a lot of fun. But Gary, time to dip our toes into the pool of jiu-jitsu and see how deep knowledge goes in certain areas, help us evaluate our own games, and ultimately get better at jiu-jitsu by understanding the concepts and the ideas of how deep this pool really can go.
Yep, so everybody definitely change into your swim trunks and make sure before you swam you haven't eaten within a half hour.
Don't think that's good advice. You don't want to get cramps and have a hard time in the water there. But don't think of the levels as, what level am I? Because we've divided this into 5 levels, 1
Byron,
through 5.
I do have
Yeah?
Well, I do kind of have a joke. There used to be a lady that trained with us every now and then up at the police academy that you might even remember her. But she was, you actually do remember her. Because there's a good story about you. This lady was crazy, and nobody really wanted to train with her too much. She was one of those people that didn't endear herself to everybody because, it sounded like she just wanted to kill somebody. So every now and then you'd get stuck training with her and, being a new person, and we'd let her teach her a little bit and let her beat us up and everything. And, one day I'll never forget, she looked at Byron and she said, she's like, nobody's ever beat me in this gym. And she went with Byron. She was in for a rude awakening, saying no one's ever beat me right before she rolled with Byron. So you remember that, Byron?
Oh, Gary.
We were actually talking about that the other day. But what was so funny is she would always, as soon as you got done rolling with her, and, let's say I let her tap me out. And, she was a real beginner. So I'd let her, tap me out with whatever move we were learning at. And then as soon as you were done, she would ask you, what belt are you? Because it's like she almost wanted to go back and tell everybody, hey, I just tapped out a blue belt. I just tapped out a purple belt. I tapped out a brown belt, or whatever you were. So me and one of our training partners, Mike, we kept telling her, hey, we're a brown belt level 3. We just kept making stuff up. And we were using levels, and we were using, just all sorts of making up stuff each and every time, because she would ask us each and every week, and I don't know how she forgot every single week, but we'd make something up the next week. But that's what it reminded me of when you were talking about different levels, that me telling her that I was level 6.
You do bring up an odd story, and I do remember that. I remember she started rolling, and she'd been coming in there for like months, and nobody had tapped her out. And she said that like she's really feeling like nobody in this gym can tap her out. And I don't feel like I just beat her up, but I definitely tapped her out. And like it wasn't hard to do. I mean, she was a beginner at jiu-jitsu. She was fairly small framed. Like, okay, armbar you, good. Okay, triangle, no problem. I don't feel like I was like being rough about it. I was just catching her in things, and she was experiencing jiu-jitsu. Okay, man.
So another time at the same place, a whole bunch of high school kids came in. You know, probably like 8 high school kids, and I don't know who they knew or whatever, but they just came in one day. None of them had ever trained before. And so we were going to show them a little something, and, you know, they'd kind of broken off into a couple groups, and some of them were rolling with a couple people, and the others were just standing around. But I remember Byron, being a nice guy, was trying to teach them something, and basically he said to get in the guard or mount or whatever. And I remember one guy looked at Byron and said, "Hey, I'm not going to do any of this." I don't even know how to say the word, so it doesn't. HOMO stuff. You know, I just don't want to make this PG-13 or rated R. But I'll never forget that. So, you know, it kind of made Byron upset. Hey, this is my sport. You're making fun of my sport. Let's get on the mat and train a little bit. And I remember you happened to show him the ins and outs of jiu-jitsu and how to tap.
The ins and outs, Gary.
Byron is an enforcer, just like the guy on your hockey team.
All right, we'll sweep all that stuff off the bat. Not my best moments, Gary.
Yeah, he's been an enforcer against a lady that, you know, was small of stature and didn't know what she was doing, and against the high school kids. Great job, Byron.
Got nothing. So back to the pool.
Sorry, Byron.
But yeah. But thinking about your jiu-jitsu as different levels, we've broken them down into 5 different levels. And where you have some pool analogies to help them keep it kind of interesting and help with understanding, possibly. But don't think of it as what level is my jiu-jitsu at. Think of it as what level is this part of my game at, because undoubtedly not all of your game is at the same level. I mean, in reality, Gary and I don't have a Berimbolo game. So that's at a level that's very low. Can't even spell it. Once Gary figures out how to spell it, he'll put it on YouTube and he'll figure it out. But until then, he's totally screwed. But so level 1 of the depth of your jiu-jitsu is the most basic thing. It's basically, you don't even know how to swim. You don't train jiu-jitsu. You might watch jiu-jitsu, you might watch MMA, you might think you understand, okay, this is a guard, this is side control, I know what mount is in the back. Everybody gets tapped out from the back. That's bad. And you got hooks to put in. You basically have picked up some stuff from watching either competitive jiu-jitsu, more likely competitive MMA, and in reality, you don't know how to swim. It's like watching swimming and you haven't even been wet. Like you have to experience jiu-jitsu with people who do jiu-jitsu to understand at all. So level 1, you don't know how to swim, you don't train. And I think most of our listeners probably train. I mean, that survey we took, 8 of those guys were not training, and the rest were good to go.
Yeah, but we only surveyed 20 people.
And they were all in the gym. That was odd.
Yeah. But, I think at level 1, and you were talking about a lot of people have watched the sport. They've seen, hey, if you get the back, it's bad. If you get mount, it's bad. You got to get your hooks in. They kind of know what a guillotine is, a rear naked choke, and you see those in the street fight videos that people post online. It seems like everybody's trying to do a choke, but it doesn't work at all. And I remember watching, you early UFCs and, really studying them, and I hadn't trained, but I really thought I knew what I was doing. And I just remember showing up the first day at the gym, and I'm like, hey, I'm in good shape. This should be easy. These guys don't look like much. I'm definitely stronger than these guys, and I've watched more UFCs. And boy, I was in for a rude awakening. My guillotine didn't work. Hooks, I couldn't even get to anybody's back. If somebody did get a position, I had no clue how to get out. So, like you said, I had no clue how to swim.
Yeah, and it reminds me of the quote The ground is my ocean. I am a shark. And most people don't even know how to swim. I did some research, couldn't figure out if it was Hickson, Henzo, or Hoyce that said it, but somebody said it. And
well, you
that's
just said
the whole
Byron.
thing. What was that? I just said it. I just repeated the quote.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of jiu-jitsu. Once you get past level 1 and you start to get in the water and learn how to swim, it becomes easy to do against people who don't train. That's like the first big step. It's going to be hard every day. You're going to go a month, 2 months, 3 months until somebody else new comes in and they are at level 1. They don't know how to swim yet. Then it's going to be, oh, this isn't that bad. This stuff actually works. Until that point, it's going to be fairly frustrating because everybody in there knows what you're trying to do. And unless, like we were talking about, they were just letting you do stuff, the techniques are tough. And yeah, they might let you do it to help you gain confidence and make you feel good and to help you learn. Letting your training partners work their technique is an important process in helping them learn. But in reality, you have to learn how to swim a little bit. Like, you have to get in that pool to start learning jiu-jitsu, and it is not easy. You do have a pretty rough couple of first months probably of just understanding. Man, every time I get someone's guard, I get knocked over immediately. Or, I just keep getting choked. I don't even know what this choke is called. I don't know what's happening. I'm confused. That's common. And just hang in there. And jiu-jitsu can be broken down into a handful of techniques. And in those handful of techniques and positions, there's a few rules that you want to follow, and then it becomes a lot more understandable. Gary, for the level 1 person, what advice would you say to somebody? So literally their first day of training, they don't know how to swim. They haven't even gotten in the pool yet. What are you going to tell that person for advice?
I'm just going to say, just listen, just watch, soak it all up and be consistent. I think what happens and lose your ego. I guess that's the thing. And not everybody has an ego going in, but I think that the people who run into trouble are the people with the ego that want to win. Look at it when you first come that you're here to learn, not to win, not to lose. You're trying to, learn the sport, and start having fun. I just think consistency is the key. I see so many people not show up consistently, not learning consistently if you don't show up, and it's just going to make your progress that much harder.
Making up your mind, I'm going to go, these days this week and for the next 2 months, regardless of how I feel about my progress, I'm going to keep going and be consistent about that. It will help get you through those tough times at the very beginning. Level 2, Gary, we've graduated from not even getting wet, not knowing how to swim, to you're in the shallow end, you're standing around. That's not very deep
either. The
either.
shallow end is good. Yeah, and we don't have floaties in this sport, so there's no safety net.
Like I was saying earlier, your whole game isn't at level 1 or at level 2. Parts of your game could become level 2. You could be reasonably good at jiu-jitsu and still have parts of your game that are at level 2. It's like,
Byron,
man, yeah.
You were level 2 early with the arm bar from the guard. You really got good with that arm bar from the guard. You may not have had anything else, but you had an arm bar from the guard. Your brick.
Yeah.
Your first brick.
But in reality, it was because the people that I was arm barring didn't understand, how to get out of it very well. Me.
But yeah. But you knew how to swivel your hips. You knew how to catch that arm. You knew how to cross grab, and so you did start picking up some of those hints. You know what I mean. You were a little farther ahead than I was at that time.
So, but that was one part of my game. Granted, you put me, at that point in my game, you give me a mount. I don't know how to swim. I'm back at level 1 at escaping mount. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm going to get tapped, or maybe they'll dismount, or it's the whole match is going to end right there. Let the timer go, and I can't escape. There are parts of your game that could be stuck at level 1. You don't even understand how the position works, or level 2. You're aware of the position, you're aware of the techniques, but you may not be doing them correctly. I would say my armbar was pretty sloppy. I didn't really get my hits off the ground. Sloppy. I just hipped into the thing and pushed as hard as I could. It's not a good armbar. I didn't really have a lot of control, but that's what I had, and that's what you
had some of the
do.
basics, and it worked. Yeah, it's not like your armbar now, but, from the start, that's something you picked up on a little bit quicker than others.
So think of,
And
yeah.
yeah, and I think I know where you're going. Everybody has something that, maybe starts fitting into their game a little bit. You like right off the bat, you just think, hey, this submission works better for me. I think my first one was a guillotine that actually worked a little bit for me.
I think, okay, so here we go. Part of my game that's probably near a level 2. I would say it is by the definitions I have here. So I'm a black belt, been training since 2002. I don't play De La Riva guard at all. I understand how to pass De La Riva guard. I could help somebody who's I know the ideas behind it. I know what you're trying to do as a basic thing. I don't do De La Riva guard. It's not something that I've worked at. It's not something I don't know what my problem is. I'm not a De La Riva guy. So I'm clearly standing in that pool, but I don't really swim. I'm not really doing those techniques. It's not something I'm going to do. I'm not going to do that. Not that there's a problem with that. In fact, it'd be nice if I probably should invest a little time in understanding that part of the game a little bit better. But my De La Riva game is at a level 2. And that it sounds weird saying that. And De La Riva guard is not a complicated guard. It is not a complex thing. I just haven't put any time into it. I like butterfly. I like X. I like close. Half is better. Deep half is fun. But De La Riva, it just hasn't been my thing. And so that's an example of how parts of my game are a lot deeper than that. But part of my game is stuck at level 2, and I either have to make that work for me or not even have it be a problem. And it's not a problem because De La Riva guard is the thing you choose to do. If my mount escapes were stuck at level 2, I'd be in trouble. If my shrimping was at level 2, I'd have a terrible game. So parts of your game you have to bring up as you get better, and parts of your game you purposely choose to develop. Gary, can you think of part of your game that is probably left a little behind as far as your?
Well, I can definitely say De La Riva guard. I can definitely say deep half. I have a terrible deep half, and it's. I know a lot of people use that, but it's something that I'm not very good at. But like you said, it's something I would have to choose to put my game into, and it's just something I don't spend my time on.
Yeah.
Maybe someday I'll get to that point and I'll work on it. But for me right now, it's not my game. Same thing with De La Riva. I don't use it. I mean, I'm a no-gi guy anyhow, but there's still, no-gi De La Riva.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But, it's just something that's close guard. I don't really use close guard. I play a different game, a loose game and always trying to attack. I rarely close my guard, which, there's faults in that. I know big time faults in not closing my guard, but that's just me.
Yeah. And since, Gary's a no-gi guy, he's been that way for years. He's had a gi before and he's done gi chokes. I would say, his gi chokes are probably near level 2. Like he's perfectly aware of a gi choke. He knows the ideas and how they work. Is he going to do a gi choke if you're wearing a gi? Probably not going to even try it. He's going to move, but he's going to ignore the gi. And that's what I do. I train, and I know it holds me back. When I'm rolling with a gi, I basically ignore it. I'm grabbing, maybe the sleeves, the collar, and the ankle, grabs. I am not wrapping the gi around anybody. I rarely go for a gi choke. Like I just don't use the gi much because I train the same, regardless of gi or no gi, because I'm working on something particular, and I don't want it to be locked into half my training time. So I know I've held myself back in my gi chokes. As a pro belt, I loved gi chokes. That was my thing, was pulling guard and choking people with their collar. Like I love that. Left that behind. And so I know my pro belt me was better at gi chokes than my black belt me. And ultimately my purple belt gi choke, my black belt gi chokes are probably near level 1, probably near level 2, standing in the pool, or level 3, moves I can do, moves I do, but I really don't do them. I left them behind. So Gary, if somebody they have a part of their game. Let's just say you're talking to yourself, another guy that's just like you, doesn't really have much of a De La Riva guard, but they're like, I think that'd be good. I really think that'd be a good investment in my time. It would help me with defending some of these guys that are passing my guard. I want to learn how to take the back from De La Riva. What would you tell them to get them to take those initial steps into getting a part of their game that they're aware of into part of the game that they could actually do?
Well, first, you have to get somebody to teach it to you. You're going to have to talk to your instructor. Hey, and your instructor may not be, teaching De La Hiva at this point, depending on where they're at in the curriculum. But you're going to have somebody who's going to show it to you a little bit and, maybe come before class, start drilling a little bit, maybe stay after class, start drilling a little bit. But you have to realize it's not something that's going to happen overnight. You're probably, if you've been training a while, you're going to be familiar with it. You're going to be familiar with, watching other people do it or people putting you in that position. And I think that helps too. If I'm just going to start something that I really haven't added to my arsenal, but you've been caught in it numerous times. People are doing it to you. You see what they're doing. I think it's easier than starting fresh. But, you're going to have to drill it. You're going to have to, study it and, retain that material and then, start practicing it on live opponents and don't give up. And see, what happens sometimes, I think, when people try to add a new, phase to their game, it doesn't work right away. And a lot of times if it's not working, that means you're getting passed or you get passed and then you get submitted. And sometimes if you think of your training as a competition and you're counting your taps and you're getting tapped out and you find out you're getting tapped out more, you may stop just because you feel like you're not doing as well. But just keep at it. Don't give up. Spend a certain amount of time on it, maybe a month, maybe 2 months, something so you can really get into the meat and potatoes of the move and, start using it more and experiment with it and getting better. So definitely, find somebody to help you out and then, stick with it and keep drilling it and keep working it and spend some time on it. Don't just spend a week because that's definitely not enough time.
Yeah. I think you could get from white belt to blue belt and some people even purple belt and just still be doing the same few techniques, making those techniques get deeper and deeper in the pool and get better at them as you go. But somewhere around that purple belt, maybe mid blue belt range, you really need to do what you're talking about, Gary, is you're going to have to take a step back and do things you're not good at. And you're going to have some struggles on the mat. You're going to have some days where this guy can't pass my guard, but now I'm trying to daily have a guard, and he's passed it 3 times in 5 minutes, and it's a little frustrating, and it's one of those times he tapped me out. Like that's the type of odd step you have to take at a certain level, and I don't think you need to take it necessarily at white and blue. You just play your A game all the time and try to make that as good as you can. That's fine. But somewhere in that range of mid blue to purple, you need to take those purposeful steps back, try something new. You're going to suffer some consequences, but in the long run, you're going to make more parts of your game, going to drag those into the deeper areas. We get this to level 3. Basically, you could swim. Level 3, you could swim. Is that deep? Basically, moves you do. Moves you can pull off at a competent level. So level 2 was really you're aware of the techniques. You might get a few here or there. Moves you do are like, yeah, I got a good... scissor sweep, or I've got a good back take from here. This is something I would do. If somebody asked me to show that, I'd be happy to show it. Level 3 is a pretty important level to get parts of your game to as quick as you can. You get those moves that give you confidence.
It starts getting really fun, too. This is when, you have more than, one move or whatever, and you're starting to, these moves are working against resisting opponents. And, it's fun to get that sweep. It's fun to, pass that guard. It's fun to get that takedown. It's fun to stretch that arm out and make your opponent tap. And, it's fun to escape that arm bar. And I don't know, this is where it really started really, really getting fun for me. Not that it's, wasn't fun from day one. Day one really wasn't that fun. It was kind of grueling.
Well, that depends on your training partners too.
Yeah. But this is when I really, really started to enjoy it. It's just neat when you can pull that stuff off. And what made me feel really cool the other day is I've never really had a great arm triangle. And I'd try, and I'd get the position and. I'd get the taps a lot of the times, but you could tell it was never a really good tap. It was more that I was ripping the guy's head off, and I still do believe a tap is a tap, but, I want a clean choke. I want, good technique in that move, and especially when I'm training. And one day, one of our previous guests, Brian Marvin, He goes, I always love his slogan, ABC, always be choking. He came up to roll one day, and there was only like 3 of us or 4 of us maybe who showed up. And so I just picked his brain for a long time. And he was a guy who always had a great Darce choke, a great triangle. But I was having trouble at this point with my arm triangle. And so I asked him, how he does his arm triangle. And he basically it was almost like getting a free private. He spent like an hour working with me on the way he does it, where most people flatten out, get their body flat to the mat. But he kind of, showed me a little knee on the belly trick. And ever since that day, he showed that to me. I got a pretty darn good arm triangle. And, been tapping people where before it wasn't working for me. And I've tried to show people this, and it seems like nobody is really fit for the person that I've showed it to, numerous people, and everybody still likes the flat body one. And so be it. Everybody, little stuff works different. But it was the last Wednesday, a guy I was training with, after we got done training, he's like, hey, I'm having issues with my arm triangle. It's not working. And I get it all the time, but I just can't tap people out. And I was like, oh, cool. I'm going to show him the Bryven Marvin technique. And I show him the Bryven Marvin technique, and he does it on me. And I felt a huge difference right away. And the very next day, or not next day, Saturday, I saw him again Saturday. And I look over, and I see him finishing one with the knee on the belly, and then I seen him finishing another one, knee on belly later on. So I asked him how it went, and he said he got like 4 or 5 taps that way, and I just thought it was cool. It's something one guy passed on to me. I'll show it. I've shown it to other people, but nobody really liked it till this person, and I just it just brings a smile to your face. It's just all of a sudden moves are working.
Yeah, that is a good feeling. It's a good feeling to also share that with somebody. You're swimming.
And if you're listening, Brian, thank you, because you would. That time you shared with me there, you really changed my game, and I really appreciate it.
And everybody else says, Brian, next time, you don't got to show Gary everything. But, so level 3, moves you do. And really, it's moves you do against people who are a similar makeup as you. Similar belt level, maybe similar size, similar skill, whatever. Like, if you're a blue belt and it's a move you can pull off only on white belts, maybe that's not level 3 for you yet. Just moves you feel confident in really feeling like this is a move I could do. And for me to own that, I need to be able to do it with people who are of similar skill to me, and not just be picking on the people who have less skill than me. I remember a lot of my, I've already talked about my purple. I like to do gi chokes a lot. I also experienced with the rubber guard quite a bit, and I was having a great time doing rubber guard. And I can evaluate my game. And I'm looking at who I'm tapping out with the rubber guard. I would never tap out purple belts or higher with my rubber guard. They would always pass my guard. I got some serious problems with this thing. I had a ton of confidence with it. I tap out a lot of people, but looking at it, they're all mostly white belts, a few blue belts, and everybody else was just passing. I was like, my rubber guard actually kind of sucks. I had a lot of confidence, but really, I need to either figure out how to make this a better guard or to put it away. And really, my rubber guard is back at level 2. It's something I'm aware of. I don't mind passing the rubber guard. Am I going to do that technique? Probably not. Not that there wouldn't be situations where I would try it, but it's just something that I'm not likely to try to do. It's not in my game. It's not in my set of techniques that are on the table for me right now. And so I think that's the thing to think about is it working against people who the techniques you're doing should work against? And not, if you're a blue belt, technique doesn't work against a black belt, doesn't mean it's not a level 3 for you. It's still a move that you do. You could pull it off on a lot of blue belts, maybe occasionally get a purple belt. Sweet. And these aren't necessarily submissions. These aren't necessarily sweeps. It could be a position. It could be, I can hold side control on any blue belt, and I am a blue belt for as long as I want. They're stuck. That's a great technique for you. And maybe not just a technique, it's how you're holding that position, a series of techniques and how you're moving, but that's a great thing. It may not just be the finish. So there's different parts of your game that can be at different levels, but I don't know. This pool gets deep, Gary.
The pool gets deep.
Take us to level 4, the deep end.
The deep end. This is where you're going to have to tread water.
Or you dive and you're okay with that.
Yeah. Yep. You're like a dolphin.
There you go. So we kind of made these up. So, whatever they're worth, but I like to think of it as level 4 moves you're good at. These are your best moves. So if you are that blue belt, maybe you tap out some higher belts with this technique. This is your BJJ brick. This is your best moves that you have. If I'm going to tap out somebody who's better than me at jiu-jitsu, I have like 3 things I'm going to try to pull off. If they have an answer for all 3 of those, it's not going to happen. But I do have a couple of things to try. And the rest of them, I know they're not going to work because I know that they're not deep end level 4 techniques for me. Does that make sense, Gary?
Definitely makes sense. These are moves you're very good at. You're, like we say, the BJJ brick. It's your brick. But you think about, you have to. We've got a move that we're really darn good at, but you have to get in that position. To be able to get to that move. So you've got to be level 3 or above probably in a lot of, in guard passing, because otherwise you're never going to get to the position. You know what I mean? So we are really great at, let's say, a Kimura, and we have numerous ways to pull off the Kimura, but I'm not going to get the Kimura from inside your guard. So I do have to get into the deep water, get to where I'm good at, get to the spot where all of a sudden I can extend your arm and take it home and put it on the mantle.
Yeah, that's a big factor, getting the match to funnel down the place you need it to be. And that's a huge thing, especially if you're trying to tap out that person or trying to get a victory against that person who is actually better at you than jiu-jitsu. And these you could do this. You could be somebody who's better at jiu-jitsu. You got to get it into your deep end of the pool and take it to your game and get them out of theirs. Like if my guillotine is one of my answers to tap somebody out who's better than me, if their guillotine defense, if they train with Jeff Glover or Marcelo Garcia, I'm not going to guillotine them. If they train with Josh Hinger, I'm not going to guillotine. They have already adapted and dealt with guillotines much better than I'm going to pull off. This is not going to happen. I'm going to have to try one of the 2 or 3 other things I have that might work. But that's it. So these are the techniques that you consider yourself. These are what you're good at. These are your best moves. Level 4, the deep end, your best moves. Gary, real quick, to ruin any chances of you competing in the next couple of weeks before you develop some new best moves. Tell me, what do you feel is your best moves? What moves do you have that go into the deep end?
Oh, I can tap out really good with both hands and feet and verbally. So, I got 5 different ways to do that. I think I'm pretty good at that.
I'll take Gary's spot on this. Gary's got amazing shrimping quality. He's incredibly hard to hold.
Shrimping ain't easy.
Shrimping ain't easy, but he's amazing at it. If Gary goes north-south, he's tapping me out every time. Like, man, you get side control. Like, I need to get myself motivated to get out of there quick because you're hard to prevent from going north-south. And once you go north-south, I really don't have answers for that. And I would say that your north-south, Kimuras, arm bars, those are deep end moves. Gary's leg locks, he's got couple of really nice series, some straight ankle locks. Those are deep end techniques that if Gary's gonna go compete and he's, dude, you got this guy in your division. Oh man, that's awesome. Good luck, Gary. Ankle lock that guy. That's your best chance. Kimura that guy. I think that's the things Gary would be looking to do. He's got some moves in the deep end. But if Gary's piddling around and trying to do a wrist lock on somebody who's technically better than him at jiu-jitsu, he's probably not going to win that match. But if he could throw on a quick ankle lock and get after it, he's got a good chance at beating somebody who's better than him. Because that part of his game, he's able to drag him into the deep end, or in some cases just push him into the deep end and make him deal with that reality that is Gary's leg lock. So there you go, Gary. I'll talk a little about your game for you. You're so humble. You can't do it. Ruined your competitive. There goes all the surprises. No, he's got a few more surprises too. One of my best things is my ability to start an idle conversation. So just some meaningless chatter, get them going on that, and then pounce, man. You just got to get on them. And that's one of the better things. It doesn't seem like a technique, but when you find yourself talking about, it is a Saturday and that thing is going to be open and they got this little, things going on in town, and then boom, you're stuck in a choke, or I've just taken your back. I set that up initially with talking about something that was mildly distracting. Not super distracting, not obvious, but I start some idle conversations that could take you to the deep end. Pretty stupid, huh, Gary?
Byron, yeah, I will tell you, rolling with Byron, if that guy passes your guard, you are in trouble. He's going to get side mount, and you better pray you have enough minutes to actually move. Byron's side mount is nasty, to put it bluntly, and I hate getting put in that position. Me and Byron fight so hard when we roll because Byron doesn't want me inside mount. I don't want him inside mount. So we spend a lot of time nobody getting a good position. But it's I know if I'm going with Byron, I will say your main thing. It's not necessarily a move, a Kimura. It's not a choke. Actually, I think your Hingertines are incredible. But the thing I fear the most from you is side mount. I mean, your side mount is crushing. It destroys you mentally because you're having so much trouble getting out of it, and you will make a mistake because you're so frustrated trying to get out of it. You will make a mistake and leave an arm or leave your neck exposed, and it'll be over. So it's my goal anytime I roll with Byron is not let him pass. If he passes, I'm in a world of hurt. I'm basically, Byron has drugged me underwater if he passes and gets side mount.
Okay, this is kind of funny because we both have complimented each other's side control. Really, your side control typically transitions to north-south, which is a world of hurt and aggressiveness. Yeah. Gary, but our side controls are totally different.
Totally different.
But they're both really cool.
Yeah. I mean, I'm the minute I get side control, I'm looking to take whatever limb is available. And Byron, he's a little more methodical. He's going to squash the daylights out of you and make you wish that you never showed up for jiu-jitsu and make you suffer for a little while and to make you lose all your energy. You basically, going to wonder why you ever started this sport. Pretty soon you're going to start spazzing out, and then Byron's going to take home whatever you just gave him.
They're just different. And I do think, if you were to watch one, Gary's style of boom attack, I pass and I attack. That's fun to watch. It is fun to watch Gary roll. My style, pass, hold it, keep it tight. Main thing is I'm going to stay here and I'll attack when I feel like I have a good attack. In reality, I attack less amount of times in a 30-minute training session than Gary does. Gary's attacks are far better. Like maybe if Gary's goal was to hold side control for 10 minutes, people escape better than they would from me. But Gary's attacks from side they're faster. He sets them up better. He's been there many more times than me, just by style of how he plays when he gets there. It's just fun to see that it's a strong part of our game, but they're totally different. And we train together all the time.
That's what makes jiu-jitsu so great. I mean, nobody has to do the exact same thing. There's so many different ways to get that submission, to get that, make that person expose a arm, expose a neck. So you can individualize it. I know we talked before a few episodes ago about art. We make this our own art. I'm that really quick drawer, that quick painter who does those really, fast works of art, where Byron, he does the Michelangelo.
You got to sculpt all the details. So we said there were 5 levels. Level 4 is your best moves. And in reality, that's where my jiu-jitsu is likely to stop. We save level 5 for a deep dive. Now we're getting some gear on and we're going in those crushing pressures. Really, level 5 is you're one of the best at a certain move. And not just the best in your gym. You're the guy coming out with a DVD of how to do this.
You're the Josh Hinger.
Yeah, that's you, and that's your technique. Now, is Josh Hinger phenomenal at, I don't know, I'll just say De La Riva. I don't know. I don't have a clue how good his game, but probably not level 5. But parts of his game, not many of them, are level 5. And parts of any of these world-class athletes are likely level 5. They're the best at these techniques. If Josh can get certain people, if Josh can get his arm around their head, his arms around their head and arm, most people are in a ton of trouble. He's one of the best in the world at that. It's just that simple. And, in reality, Gary and I are unlikely to obtain a level 5 technique, but if it were to happen, it would be an amazing part of our game. But it takes a ton of work to get there.
Yeah, it definitely takes a ton of work. These guys who are in this position, it just doesn't come. They put in all that work. They've trained, they've drilled, they've basically done everything that you should do to get to that point, and just got really, really, really good at something. And most of these people are really good at a lot of stuff. It's just they got one or two moves that's a 5, but really about everything else is probably in the 4 range. It would be nice to be at that level someday.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't think I'll ever be there, but it's so fun to watch those guys. You're watching them in the worlds or anywhere, and you're like, this guy is known for this, and you're just waiting for it to come. It's going to come, and it's just a thing of beauty, and you just admire it. And next day, it's being shared all over the interwebs, and everybody's watching it, and just astonished by the work of art that it was just shown with that move.
Here's the thing about that move, though, and those are cool to watch, and you see it, man. That was amazing. He beat this guy with that technique. That was a level 5 depth technique. And if you're watching it and you're amazed by it and you're confused and you're trying to figure out how it worked, you're at a level 1. Like, you don't know how that technique even works. You're not even in the pool right now. So maybe you can get from level 1 to getting in the pool and maybe even pulling it off on a couple people that are a similar level. But you are so far from level 5. Like, to think that that's going to be something you're going to pull off in a couple of weeks, that's not really thinking about reality. And I think that people fall in that trap all the time. They see something that a phenomenal black belt does, and I'm going to swing that over to my game, and I'm going to be able to pull that off. And yeah, you can pull the technique off, but it's not level 5 technique. Maybe it's level 3. Maybe it's a move you do. Maybe even level 5 or level 4 after some time is a move you're good at. It's one of your bricks. But it's a common thing that people run into is they see something done by somebody and they're performing at that elite level. It's one of their best techniques at that elite level, and they try to copy that. That's hard to do.
Definitely hard to do. And, sometimes, like you said, somebody's seeing that move and, they get that false sense that they're going to be there, level 5. And like you said, they're only pulling it off on, brand new people. And, but the thing is, keep working it, keep studying it, keep training it, try to get it up to level 3. And then maybe sooner or later it'll become one of your bricks. So, work it, study it. And, what I like today is so many of those like scout videos,
Yeah, those are cool videos.
Yeah, those really help a lot. Help me a lot. Where before you just see somebody doing it and you totally didn't understand really what happened. But when they start breaking everything down, check out some of those videos. Talk to your instructor. But the key is, as we mentioned earlier, it's time. It's not going to happen overnight. You need to put in a lot of time. Like I guarantee you, Josh Hinger did not get that great Hingertine, in a month of work. It is just over and over and over again, many months, many years to get where he's at.
Yeah, I understand that. You watch a video and it breaks it down for you, and you've picked it up. Level 3 is a long time. Like, the moves you do, you could do them for a long time before you actually become proficient in one of your best moves. Get that to level 3, level 4. There's a pretty big gap there a lot of times. Some techniques you pick up pretty naturally if it's in your game, and maybe you got great Kimuras, and sure enough that Kimura transitions to an arm bar, so now you have good arm bars, kind of off of that, and naturally, some things work better and more smoothly than other things, but level 3 is probably one of the wide levels that we're all going to experience in jiu-jitsu. Moves you do, trying to get those into moves you're good at and make them your best moves. And I think that's a big place that we all spend some time swimming around. And I think that you get that move to level 4, moves you're good at, moves that you could basically get people that are better than you at jiu-jitsu, and then you can go look at another level 3 move. Well, which one of these moves do I have? I could try to bump up to level 4 again. And the more of those level 4 techniques you have, the more deadly you're going to be to everybody you roll with. The idea of cranking out a whole bunch of level 5s, level 5 is just an example of the elite people who are on the mat. It's like Gary and I said, we're not likely to obtain a world-class technique of anything. I get to level 4, I get happy, this is fun, and then you kind of move on. And even if I didn't, I'm not competing with the world's best. I'm not training with the absolute best in the world and trying these techniques on them. It's hard to sharpen that blade a little bit more. You can only dig this pool so deep, Gary.
You dig it too deep, you're just going to fill it with more water, Byron.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
But, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, just strive. Just keep trying to get everything to level 4. Level 5 is going to be very few people to get there. And same thing with level 4. You're not going to have every move as a brick. Like I said, I really started enjoying it when I got to level 3, when I could start pulling stuff off. But, it takes a lot of time. And so don't get discouraged. Just keep trying to move everything up these different levels and getting better at each and every move that you really enjoy.
Looking back, episode 217, we had Craig Jones. Episode 218, we had Bradley Restema. 2 great guys to have on the show, very knowledgeable, very good at communicating jiu-jitsu skills over the air, like over your ears. Like, it was really cool to hear them talk about jiu-jitsu, and I really learned a lot from both of them. Braulio's big thing is he wants to take you out of your game and make you deal with things that you're not good at. So he's keeping you out of level 4, out of level 5, absolutely. And he's just trying to basically keep you in games like, I know how to do this, but I don't want to do this. I want to do this instead. And Braulio's shutting that down before it starts. And then you make mistakes, and he's all over that. And looking at Craig Jones's game, he plays a Z guard on the offside leg, which he pulls that, and he's in that game immediately. And so he's immediately he's one of the best in the world at that Z guard, the way he plays it on that side. Like, people who he's competing against haven't dealt with anybody that good on that side. They're in the level 5 of Craig Jones. It's going right now. And he's in that very quickly in a lot of his matches. And those are 2 different things. Braulio is dragging you to your shallow end, and he's just going to maul you in that part of the pool. And Craig is more or less start trying to get you into his deep end as quick as possible, where ultimately, you don't know how to pass the Z guard on that side. You're not good at it. You're in a bad place too. But there are 2 different styles. Interesting to think of. I think, Braulio has a lot more experience, and I think that he's able to pull that off. If he's able to take you in so many parts of your game that you don't like, that he's really good at anyway, and I think that it's smart for Craig to say, play this game right here, this way, and I want to beat you at it every time. And that's smart for him. And as Craig adds levels into his depth, into different parts of his game, he's going to add more diversity and different attacks and surprise people again and again. But it's interesting. 2 elite competitors, both have done some amazing things in jiu-jitsu. They play a little differently, and they both have a lot of success. And so, think about how you want to bring jiu-jitsu to somebody. Do you want to avoid somebody's part of their game? Well, if it's easy to do, if it's one thing you have to avoid, you might be able to pull it off. If you have to avoid a lot of their game, okay, he's got a good this, okay, I can't do that. Well, he's good at passing my guard, okay, I don't want to pull guard. Well, if I pull guard on him, he's going to pass easily. Okay, then you're in a lot of trouble. So just think about, are you trying to avoid something, or are you trying to present them with a problem they can't solve? And I think that's an interesting way to look at these 2 elite competitors, what they're doing, and learn from both of them. And they're both correct answers to different problems and their different solutions.
Yeah, I just thought it was so great. 2 very high-level competitors each have a little different way of doing it. It's kind of like what we were talking about as both me and you, we're definitely not elite competitors, but as we pass, into side mount, we both have different ways of going about doing stuff. So, it's cool to see, 2 people with such high level success go about different ways.
Yeah. I hope this has helped people. That was the goal, to just help you think about your game kind of pin a few of your different areas and different spots, and figure out, okay, what level 3 can I make a level 4? If I just work a little harder on it for a month or two, maybe even, Gary and I get in those things where we spend 6 months or a couple of years on a technique, and it feels like it's a very good level 4. And sometimes I try to do that to a level 3 technique, and like I really thought, you know what, I want a good Kimura, and I did some details with Gary, and I learned some stuff, and I started to pull off a few Kimuras, and somebody escaped it by yanking their arm down hard. He yanked my elbow down pretty hard, and that kind of popped my shoulder. I'm like, man, I'm doing this technique and it hurts my shoulder, and I just left it behind. I was like, I'm not going to do Kimura anymore. Like I'll do something else instead.
Yep, I appreciate that.
So, just find those level 3 techniques that you could bump up to level 4. Find those level 2 techniques that are worthwhile for you to get to become moves you're good at, and just slowly you're just going to notch yourself into a deeper and deeper pool you could swim in, and that makes it a lot more enjoyable, at least for you.
And that's the key.
Because when the other person's swimming in your pool, deep pool, it's pretty tough sometimes. It's a bit wavy.
Definitely wavy. But great article today, or interview today, and I'd like to thank Byron and Gary for taking the time to talk to us.
We did it, Gary.
We did it, Byron. And I actually got to thank myself. Byron, how much do I need to cross-train to get better at BJJ?
Well, that's a good question, Gary. And, thinking about that, you can head right over to a nice little website called BJJEE, and that stands for, BJJ, Eastern Europe. It's a site that has a ton of stuff on there, always coming out with new articles and new things, and a lot of news. And there's an article on there really discussing just that, how much do we need to train to get better at BJJ? It's a good place to go, Gary. What's up? How much do you need to train?
That's subjective, I guess. But no, we have a great article this week from James Duccio. He's a BJJ black belt in Las Vegas, so definitely check him out. But really great article, and this is one thing that has really helped my game. Cross training, and just a little, on me. For a couple of years, I was probably rolling 6-7 days a week, which for me is a ton. Before that, I'd roll maybe 3 days a week and do 3 or 4 days of weight training or sports. But I like jiu-jitsu so much. At one point, I just decided I was going to just do nothing but train jiu-jitsu. That's what I like. But I found out I think it was a little detrimental to me. I ended up getting hurt a little bit more. Nagging injuries would never heal, and I did this for a couple of years, and I think it was a couple of years that kind of hurt my training a little bit. And remember, each person is different. For me, it didn't necessarily work out, but once I realized that I needed to get back to doing some strength training, doing some stretching, some cardio exercise outside, and I cut my training down to 3 days a week, sometimes 4, and all the other days, I'll do some weight training or play some sports or do any kind of cardiovascular training, and that has definitely helped my game out. But that's what this article is about. What should you do? Should you train jiu-jitsu? Should you not? And I hear people all the time say, how do you get better at jiu-jitsu? How do I get better cardio for jiu-jitsu? Should I be running? Should I be doing sprints? And I hear a good majority of people say you need to train more jiu-jitsu. And so that is one thing I do hear a lot.
The article makes some great points. Getting there, getting stronger, getting physically fit, it's going to reduce your injuries. You'll perform better on the mat. You're obviously not picking up technique, but it can add some mat time for you, both the day you're there grappling and long term as far as longevity on the mats. Those are cool things. James mentioned an old cross country coach. If you want to get better at run, you run. If you want to get better at swimming, you swim. And to an extent, that's a oversimplified way to look at it. A lot of it's true. If you can grapple more. I don't recommend you take a night off of grappling when all the people are getting together and training and go lift weights. But if you can't make it that evening to go train and you got to work late, or maybe the kids have a game to go, you got to take them to or watch or something like that. Something's happening. If you could still exercise that day, that's an advantage. Whether it's running around the block, lifting some weights, swimming, whatever it is. If you can get up a little early before work and do some sort of physical fitness before the day starts, that's going to help you. That does help. It's not going to. It'd be. Is it help or hurt? It helps. As long as your off the mat training isn't causing you problems, isn't injuring you, it's going to help you. And that's the big thing. If your off the mat training is costing you days on the mat, whether it's due to injuries you got, skateboarding, or bike wreck or something like that, maybe it's not helping you. But if it's keeping you healthy and it's giving you more fitness, it's good. And in reality, most of us can't train as much as we want. We have lives. And so it gives the opportunity for off the mat training to come in and help. Days I work a 24-hour shift. I can't train in the 24-hour shift unless I happen to be stationed with somebody who also trains, and we, pretty rare. So the idea that I should do nothing because it's not going to help me. No, I can hop on a treadmill. I can lift some weights. I can play some racquetball. Any of that stuff is going to help. It may not seem like it, but it does. If it gets sweaty, getting exercise, it all helps. And that's really what I think the bulk of the article is getting at. It does help. More jiu-jitsu is great, but off the mat stuff is beneficial. And he gives example like cross training about 25%. It'd be an optimal thing. I think that's a good number. If you train 4 days a week. So I know Gary, he trains, he's exercising every day. They're not all jiu-jitsu, but every day he's doing some kind of fitness activity. I applaud him for that. That's awesome.
And I really do think it's helped my game now that I don't train every single day. I just think it makes me more excited when I do come and train jiu-jitsu. And I do think that the weight training has helped, and the flexibility has helped lessen injuries and made me stronger on the mat, which I think has definitely helped. But, everybody's different. I do, I just don't think that you can do what I do or I can do what Josh Hinger does. I think we all, everybody's different and we're unique individuals. And the thing is, we have to go through trial and error to figure it out. But, Byron says a good point, if you can't make it for some reason, to your jiu-jitsu class, definitely go for a run, go play a little basketball. As our friend Joe, the third person on our podcast, he likes to skateboard. Skateboard's great for balance, and kind of at the top of this picture, they show somebody on a balance board. I think anything balance is great for jiu-jitsu, great for your core. And then right next to that picture, they show a guy doing some weird squat while he's on his back, and that kind of reminds me of Byron working out. That's kind of like the way he likes to work out. So definitely check that picture out and just think that's how Byron trains.
Yeah, I'm not able to pull that one off. We'll put a link to the article in the show notes. One of the lines in the article says, "We need to cross-train not only for durability, not only to increase our athleticism, not only to increase our strength or flexibility, but also to keep us from burning out. We need to take the mental side into consideration as well." And that's a big one. If you are that person who is, close to the gym, you don't have a lot of things getting in the way of your training, you're training 7 days a week, week after week after week after week, it probably wouldn't hurt you to go play a game of basketball with your buddies. Probably wouldn't hurt you to go run or take a boxing class once, or, to just mix it up a little bit. And then when you get back to class, you're like, yeah, this is awesome. And boom, that motivation hits, and you're not just training hard, but you're training motivated. And I think that's a big factor. And I really like that line in there. There's a lot of great things that it does, but that's not the only thing. The mental side is a big consideration in your cross training as well. If your cross training is boring and you hate it, that's not the right thing either. Unless you're an elite competitor and you're just pushing yourself through the drudgery of that. Most of us are recreational athletes who are doing their best to get better and keeping it fun. That's a big part of jiu-jitsu. Gary, it's a good article. I enjoyed it. I'd say, James, you did a good job, buddy.
Yeah, great article. Check it out. We have a link to it on the show notes. Don't forget to check out BJJ Brick on social media. Our big thing is Facebook. We're on the interwebs, and you'll see us on Facebook a lot. Also, check out our revamped, I guess it's not necessarily revamped, but all the cool stuff we have on our YouTube channel. So check out BJJ Brick on YouTube. Tell all your friends about BJJ Brick, the podcast, the Facebook page, and our YouTube channels. Share it, let everybody know about it. We'd really appreciate it.
Yep, we're doing a new thing on the. It's on YouTube, it's on Facebook, maybe a few other places. But we're putting little clips of the show, little minute and a half long segments that we think really kind of stand out and highlight the episode. And it's gotten a great reception from the audience. It's easy to listen to something for a minute while you're on Facebook. And fun. That's what we use Facebook for. You're not going to listen to a podcast while logged on to Facebook. That's not really the way to listen to the podcast. But a minute long, boom, you listen to it. Then comment about your opinion below and add to the conversation. We want to hear what you guys think is, tell one of the levels off or something like that. Like, we want to know about that. And if, somebody says something, we interview somebody, we put a little quote in there, a minute long little clip. We want to hear what you guys think about that. And that's really cool to get the conversation going on social media. Not just, I like the show. Boom. We would definitely appreciate that. But to comment about a little thing that we think is interesting, that's also fun. That's really cool. And I want to remind everybody, we have a Patreon page. What is Patreon, you say, Gary? Well, I'll answer that.
What is Patreon, Byron?
Patreon is a website for people who do things like produce podcasts or artwork or music, content producers, basically. And it's a way that the audience can support them. This is an audience-supported show, whether you're buying our audiobook or you're supporting us on Patreon. Our loyal Patreon supporters are small and mighty, but they're our biggest fans.
The key word is mighty.
What was that?
The key word is mighty, Byron.
Mighty, yes. They are our biggest fans. You'll find them on Patreon. They're volunteering to pay $1, $2, or $3 to every episode to help the show going strong. And they have helped us many times before. We wouldn't have the app that we have without them. That's one of the bigger new things is the app that we've developed. That costs some money, and we're able to produce that with the help and support of the Patreon team. Joe is going to be doing interviews for us in the future, so this is really the last episode of the year. We're hoping to get Joe to do interviews and that sort of thing. Hoping, I don't know how many he's thinking about doing, but one a month would be kind of a fun way. As a bonus episode, guys, not instead of episode, and thus, something happens with our schedules, but really, we're looking at bringing you extra stuff because of Patreon. We had to send Joe equipment and gear and that sort of thing. Patreon, thank you, guys. Our Patreon supporters are the best. If you're thinking about doing this, we send you out a gi patch, 5-inch gi patch, put on your gi to show that you support, a sticker. You get to join the private, exclusive Facebook group that we have where we chat about jiu-jitsu sometimes and let you know who's coming up on the show. Just really our biggest and most supportive fans are found on Patreon. Thanks, guys. It's been a great year on the show. Hope everybody is, I guess this is the last year of the show. Hope everybody's being safe over the holidays. Merry Christmas, guys. And not quite done with the show yet, but kind of all episode, we haven't thought about this being the last episode of the year, Gary.
Yeah, that you just sprung that on me. I had no clue that this was this is the end of 2017.
Yep, it's actually Air Christmas Day. We're recording this a little while ahead of time, and that way we can be with our families.
That shows you that BJJ Brick is not closed on Christmas Day. We will be putting out a podcast.
Yep.
This is Mat Tales. We bring you amazing jiu-jitsu stories. The stories might be funny, unfortunate. It could be about an epic fail or an epic win. So sit back, my friend, relax, dry off your sweat from rolling, and enjoy Mat Tales.
I am so fortunate. I train at a gym that is like a big, rowdy family. This year, as in years past, we decided to have a Christmas party. My instructor throws a great Christmas party every year. We sent out the invites and, of course, a very special invitation to a huge guest, Santa Claus. Well, of course, all of the children were excited for the opportunity to see Santa this year before Christmas, get in those last-minute gift ideas, add it to their list, and a good photo opportunity with the big man never hurts anyone. Due to a scheduling conflict with Santa Claus, it was quite obvious a few days out that Santa Claus was not going to be able to make his personal visit this year. He just had too much going on this close to Christmas. Well, we had a plan B, and plan B was for Coach to dress up as Santa Claus, thus covering for the real thing this year anyway. The party started off great. Everyone was socializing, eating food, children were exchanging gifts, the adults were partaking in different beverages, and everyone was really having a great time. Suddenly, down the hall, we heard bells ringing. Bells that could only mean one thing. Santa Claus was in the house. The door of the gym was opened, and there he stood, Santa Claus, in a big red costume with a big white beard and a belly that was not only big, it was full of laughter. Ho, ho, ho! Santa Claus burst into the room, and all the kids got up and greeted Santa Claus, like a mob of shoppers at Best Buy with the TVs on sale. Oh, it was a great moment in the history of our gym as all the kids got to see Santa Claus at their jiu-jitsu gym. Looking at Coach subbing in for the big man this year, you could tell he was really enjoying his role as playing Santa Claus for the kids. Santa Claus sat down, he knew all the kids by name, and passed out candy canes and chocolates to all the kids that were not on the naughty list. Well, soon after sitting down, Santa Claus definitely began to relax. His voice changed to the very distinctive voice of our coach. Some of the older kids definitely noticed that his face was also recognizable under the beard. And with the distinctive voice to back it up, they began to question, where was the real Santa Claus tonight? But the younger kids were still in it and having a great time as Coach continued to take Christmas wishes and add them to his list. Many parents got this opportunity to take pictures with Santa Claus and the children. It was still going fairly smoothly, as all but a few of the older kids were really enjoying themselves. As time ticked by and Santa Claus stayed a little longer, the ho-ho-hos and the jingling bells definitely decreased, as he basically dropped the entire character of Santa Claus and became himself. Now the middle-aged group of children had really begun to wonder as well, is this really Santa Claus? It sounds a lot like Coach. This is when it really dawned on me that we put the most recognizable figure of the gym with a beard and tried to disguise him in front of all the children. Probably not the best person for this role today, but I could still tell Coach was loving the excitement, loving the attention, and really having a great time with the younger children at least. After about 10 minutes had passed, Santa Claus had made his appearance. It was time for him to drink a little eggnog, grab a few cookies, and head out for the rest of his night. As Santa Claus was heading out of the gym, he managed to grab one of the adult students and do a judo throw that only Coach pulls off. A particular fancy throw that everyone has seen him do, but nobody can imitate. It was a beautiful throw, except for the fact that it really alerted the youngest generation of children that it is likely not Santa doing that throw, but their coach, the only person that they've seen perform this throw in a costume. Although we had a great party, and the kids did too, we had an interesting conversation about Santa Claus, his busy schedule, and Coach's role filling in.
This has been Matt Tales. Some of the names and places may have changed. We may in fact have taken some creative liberties with the story. In order to keep Matt Tales going, we need more tales. Tales from listeners like you. Send your tales to bjjbrick@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing your amazing stories.
So I hope you have a good week. Next week, my friends.
What do we have next week, Byron?
Next week, we have Jess Munter. Jess is an adaptive athlete. She has, I believe her left arm is basically paralyzed since birth. She's out there training. She's out there competing. She's beating some able-bodied athletes. Really amazing story from Jess. Really liked talking with her. She was a blast. Really, really motivational. Really learned a lot from somebody in reality who's pretty new to jiu-jitsu and how much it's helped her become a better person on and off the mat. Like, she really tells a interesting story of how hard parts of her life were, and then jiu-jitsu's in her life and how much some of that stuff has changed. Really a great story to start the year off with. I want to thank our friend Brian Freeman for recommending a conversation with her. I want to thank Jess for getting on here. I think it's sometimes easier for people who are like Boralio or Craig or these elite competitors to get in here and talk about jiu-jitsu because they live it. So does Jess, but it's a different story for her. And I really appreciate her just opening up and sharing her story. You're going to be motivated. It's a heartwarming episode, and you're gonna fall in love with her and her story. Absolutely enjoyed this first episode of the year. And we're going to start the year off strong, my friends. So ending the week strong, Gary. You ready for this, my man? I did not tell you about what's happening this episode.
Oh, I thought you were ending the week strong, so you were going to have me say something. Because all that cross training I do.
Yeah, you're strong. You do lift a lot more weights than me, my man. I'll give you that. But don't have an audiobook for you. So a lot of times at the end of the show, we get a little bit out there, have a little bit of bonus fun, and I'll throw like a random topic at Gary or a random audiobook title and have him come up with an idea. And you know what? I decided to change it up here.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. You'll thank me now, probably not thank me later. Have you ever seen that show Family Feud?
Oh, I love that show. Steve Harvey.
Yes. The show is fun. It's funny. And it puts people on the spot. You got to think of things, right? So, Gary, welcome to, I don't know, we might as well call it Jiu-Jitsu Feud. Really not Jiu-Jitsu related. I went to the Family Feud website and found some questions. and found the best one I could that, it's pro wrestling. That's the best I could get on there. They surprisingly, I don't think they have jiu-jitsu questions.
Yeah.
But we got a pro wrestling question. So, Gary, I've got like the top 7 answers. Okay. We'll go till you get 3 wrong, or if you give up entirely. Okay. And here we go. Name a garment you would probably find in the dressing room for a pro wrestling event.
A robe.
A robe. Let's check the answer there. Number 4. 9 people said robe.
Trunks.
What do you mean by trunks?
Wrestling trunks.
Like shorts?
Yeah,
shorts.
Called trunks.
Yeah, I'm consulting with the judges here, and shorts, yes. Number 2 answer, 17 for trunks. I'm very impressed, Gary.
Boots. Wrestling boots. Shoes. They wear boots, though, pro wrestlers.
I don't have shoes. That is it's a good answer. It's one that Steve's not going to make fun of you for. But they're not on there, man. I don't know why not. They do wear shoes.
Okay. Knee pads, Byron.
Gary keeps knee pads in his dressing room, but we'll leave that off the show. But no, knee pads was not an answer. Getting made fun of a little bit.
Can you repeat the question again?
Yes, of course.
This is ridiculous.
As you're thinking about it. And think of like more 80s-ish pro wrestling. But name a garment you'd likely find in the dressing room of a pro wrestling event.
Pro wrestling event. In a dressing room. So these aren't necessarily out in the ring.
Yeah, that's true.
See, I've been thinking they're in the ring. Shoot. Garment. A jockstrap, Byron.
You know what, Gary? I'm going to bend a little bit here.
You're going to bend on that one?
Well, they have tights.
Yeah.
Jockstrap is pretty tight.
Spats.
So we'll give you that. The judges say we're going to do the tights from jockstrap. You're going good, Gary. You've got 3 correct answers up on the board. The other team has a chance to steal, and the other team knows all the answers. So there's nobody else playing. I imagine everybody listening is trying to think of answers as well, Gary. So they know it's hard.
Hope they're not, struggling as much as I am.
I think it's
feel like
tough.
I'm in Byron's side control right now. I would say a hat, Byron.
A hat. Looking at the judges, I'll give you a clue here. Something that does go above the neck, but not a hat. Think of it like Japanese style or Hispanic style pro wrestlers.
Bandana.
Mask. Bandana's there you go. Mask and bandana are the same. So you basically got all the ones that were fairly easy. Not necessarily that they were easy, but you've got the top 4 answers, Gary. Very impressive.
So now I need to get 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah, but I don't think they're going to have
more
it.
Strike left. How about a horse, Byron?
No horse. Good guess.
Okay.
I like that. Yeah. That's funny.
I wasn't going to get it anyhow. So
okay.
What were the other 3?
We've got...
wait, somebody gets to steal. You get to steal, Byron.
I get to steal. Oh, but it just say belt because that's the number 5 answer and 8 points.
How did I forget that one?
Yeah. Well, you don't think of it as a dressing room. And the
cape. It could have been Harley Race. Yeah. No, Harley Race always took his belt to the ring.
Cape is the number 6 answer, my man.
That was what did I say? The robe. That was a cape.
The robe was number 4. They are
the
the same
between a robe and a cape.
I think that you're right on, Gary. I didn't know this would be so controversial. Man, the internet is going to be exploding with controversy about this podcast episode. The number 7, leotard. Tights is basically you basically got it. I'm really impressed.
That was my trunks.
That was your trunks, or the tights. I think you did very well.
That's why I didn't say singlet because oh well.
The money is in the mail, Gary.
Yeah,
they'll be sending you that money. If they don't, send them an email at the Family Feud website. Thanks for playing the game, Gary.
Why, thank you.
Feel free to look up one of those and throw it at me if you want to get me back. It's fairly easy to do. Just Google it. And then find one that's kind of wrestling or sporty or semi-relative, and I'll give it a go if you want.
Or I'll just make my own up.
Yeah, that'll be tough. Because you answered horse for one of those answers, and I can't think of things like that. But that's wraps up the show.
Guys, are cowboys. Cowboy Bob Orton, Blackjack Mulligan, Blackjack Lanza, Dick Murdoch. Those guys were all country boys. So they could have rode horses.
Jake the Snake, Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior.
Those guys weren't country boys.
That's my generation of pro wrestling, Gary. Yeah. That's the thing. Yep. There's a generational gap on this show. You need Joe back.
The good thing is this was brought to us by the movie The Wrestler, starring Mickey Rourke. So definitely check it out.
All right, guys. It's been a fun week. Next week, we're back to... We didn't really mention it at the last episode of the month. We do a episode where we just talk about a topic. It was this. We'll get back to our normal interview format next week. And stay sweaty, my friends.
And don't forget to shower.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.